It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains, my colleague. Up in the north is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Very, very well, sir.
Good. Busy week in the NFL.
I'll say.
That goes without saying. We'll kind of come on to all of those trades with the hot takes. Then we'll dive straight into some fantasy jiggery pokery with Darling's losers and our DraftKings team of the week. Sound good to you, Dutton?
Sounds like a plan.
Let's do it, and let's get straight on with some hot takes. So the first one, Dutton, I think we praised the New England Patriots basically about everything. But one of the things people have praised them about is what always seemed like a long-term approach to winning. I know, never really focusing on just this season. Is this move of getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo a more of a short-term deal than they have done in the past?
It's an odd one because there's no immediate succession plan. I mean, they've always had solid quarterback, that they thought that they brought in and produced behind Tom Brady. Obviously, they've got one of them back in Brian Hoyer, but I don't really think you could sell the Patriots on if Tom Brady was to retire tomorrow that Brian Hoyer would be the guy. I don't think they'd go for that. What it does for me is, I think it commits this run. So whenever Tom Brady goes, Bill Belichick will go as well. Because I think this is screw it, I can't be bothered almost planning doing this again for however many years and then leaving it to someone else to get the main benefits from it. When you're ready to go, I'll go. And whether that's short-termism or what or not, who are we to argue with how they do business?
Yeah, I mean, it's short-term in the fact that, you don't think Tom Brady can live forever, but that's still to be proven.
Until I see evidence that he can't, I'm inclined to think that he can.
I mean, let's be honest, they tried to trade him in the off-season, but they couldn't get the value that they thought they deserved. They were never going to make him They were never going to franchise Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo's stories have come out was never going to sign an extension. So they didn't really have much choice in this, and I think the 49ers did what they needed to do and got themselves what they see as a franchise quarterback at, let's be honest, a much considerable less cost than they would have to pay Kirk Cousins.
One should consider that in the botched Bengals-Browns trade, the Browns tried to trade for A.J. McCarron for more than the 49ers were prepared to trade, than the 49ers got Jimmy Garoppolo for.
I don't think we should ever use the Browns front office / head coach / team as an example of what should and shouldn't happen.
The league needs to buy the Browns, run it for a year, find a proper owner, just to get some degree of stability. But they're an absolute joke, and I'm sick of it.
They are a joke, but let's be honest, it's not like they haven't had football people. Okay, this time's slightly different, but they have had multiple football people in charge of this operation. This isn't like it's me and you in charge. People have been in charge who know football teams. It's short-termism on short-termism. I think, he's never given anyone 4 years, and now the people who he looks like he's going to give the longest reign to are the ones he shouldn't have.
The best thing I saw is, because there's been, obviously, it's coming out, that apparently, who'd have thought Hugh Jackson wanted every single quarterback who was drafted or signed for a team. He wanted them all, as opposed to what he got given here. But now that's all going off, and it looks like it'll be, this town isn't big enough for the both of us between Hugh and the analytics people. Someone said on Twitter, I'm starting to think the only thing Hugh is actually good at is vigorously pointing the other way whenever there's a penalty.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a really good offensive coordinator. I don't think we can deny that of him. Coaching hasn't gone. The head coach job hasn't gone well this time, especially. I don't think he can necessarily. I think he was 8-8 Oakland in the 1 year?
8-8, yeah.
So, it's not like he can be blamed like it was a disaster there, but it hasn't been good everywhere else. Well,
Nope.
in Cleveland, sorry. Second take, Dutton. Just a quick one for NFL offensive coaches, head coaches, and quote-unquote franchise quarterbacks across the league. 7 points is more than 3 points.
Whoa.
Now,
are you sure?
I don't want to confuse anyone with that, because I know that is really, I've gone really deep analytics science there. What I've said to people is that 7 points is more than 3 points. In fact, Neil, I'll go as far as 6 points is more than 3 points. So NFL franchises, head coaches, when you get in the red zone, make some attempts to try and get in that end zone. That would be nice for fans of said teams. I'm not going to name those teams, Washington and Detroit, to name but a few. But you know who I'm looking at. Sorry, Detroit, you can't score 15 points and not get in the end zone. Your quarterback cannot throw for 420 yards and you don't get a touchdown. And as for Washington, the scoreline doesn't suggest how much they dominated that first half and then somehow were getting beat. Bravo, Washington. You're much like my other team who I support in football. That's not a good thing.
I think as well, what it comes down to is there's still coaches who think 3-down game, and the fourth down the fourth down literally has to end with a kick. No, I mean the San Francisco 49ers were 0-7 going into play the Philadelphia Eagles. They were down 17-0, 4th and 8, or something stupid like that, on the Eagles' 43-yard line, and they punted. What the hell is that?
But didn't he kick a field goal at like 17-3 or something? Do you know
To make it was 17-7, and they got a field goal after that. But yeah, what's the point? That's those 3 points. The game's dead.
Yeah, and there wasn't long. I don't know. Maybe as I said, Neil, maybe we overthink this type of stuff. But I'm pretty sure that like 7 points or 6 points, if you want to ignore the extra point, is more than 3. Just there we go. So I like teams that follow other teams' model if that model has been successful. So I commend Houston for trying to be the Seattle Seahawks. The fatal flaw in that being the Seattle Seahawks is you don't have to go as far as to decide that you don't need a left tackle. That's the extreme of of copying the Seattle Seahawks. You don't need to be that much like the Seahawks that you're trying to get your QB killed, who, by the way, is going to be your franchise, hopefully, for the next 10 years.
This goes beyond having a quality player protecting your quarterback. This is a toxic situation between one of the greatest players in franchise history, which he is. He's been there 10 years. And I really don't want to get political.
Just use it as the owner.
Yeah, a racist owner.
You don't need to just the owner. Yeah. But what I mean is, Neil, to be fair, this happened long before that. He held out 5 weeks before that, and he weren't willing to pay him. So what they've done is got beat by a team who, like Jadeveon Clowney, nearly beat on his own on the deep, and then giving him a player to stop Jadeveon and Clowney just in case they ever meet again.
Well, the thing is, though, I'd say, with the way the schedules work, unless these two teams meet in the Super Bowl at any stage, they're not going to have to deal with that for another 4 years.
True.
So ultimately, to be honest, for a 32-year-old who's probably who's got a year and a half basically left in his contract, to get what they got for him, that's actually good business. It's just obviously the downside. Speaking as a team, as a fan of a team who have lost their left tackle, they don't grow on trees.
That's the thing. I agree with you, and they have got a good haul. That bit, I don't think that's, you can't deny that. My scary thing is you haven't got a left tackle and you've replaced him with nothing.
yeah, as Amy Trask said, draft picks never blocked anyone.
Exactly, Neil. Final one. Can NFL schedule makers? I know it's a difficult job, and I'm not trying to convince you. And to be fair, this is aimed at you. TV executives, I'm looking at you. You know that stadium in southern Florida that's never full? Did you then talk yourself through, what we need to do with these guys? We need to put them on 3 weeks on the run in prime time in America. And also, let's give them a London game. Here we go, Neil. Miami scheduling Thursday night, last week against Baltimore. Sunday night. And then Monday night. And they've also already had a London game. By the way, so far in that run they've had 0 points in 2 of those 4 games. Fantastic. And regardless of the new spin, as I see it, of Jay Ajayi basically walking around setting fire to the Miami locker room, they've got rid of their best defensive player.
It just seems to me that a head coach who comes out and basically criticises a player for not adhering to the game plan and not essentially caring enough loses all credibility when this head coach essentially moved heaven and earth to sign Jay Cutler.
Yeah, I don't. If you're Adam Gase and you don't see the irony of that, I don't really think we can help you.
I'm starting to think, and this was they mentioned this on Bleeding Green Nation. I think it was James Seltzer who mentioned it. Adam Gase is starting to get a bit of the Chip Kelly stink on him. This offensive guru who's actually not a very good head coach in the NFL.
But I think what we need to look at really is, like some of the best head coaches are not offensive geniuses. There's not many Bill Walshes in that tree. Some of them are excellent offensive coaches, but when they get that label of genius, quote unquote, they're not all like that. So I know you want that in your franchise because you think, it'll be cool and exciting, but sometimes that's not always going to work.
Do you remember what we were talking about last week? About how it's a coincidence that franchises who've had good quarterbacks have been good for years.
It's weird, that, isn't it?
Is it worth pointing out, as much as Peyton Manning raves about Adam Gase, that Gase has only actually been truly great with Peyton Manning?
Yeah, I think it's worth a debate, and I'm not, and we go back, and like Bill Walsh is one of the greats, absolutely undeniable. I'm now going to talk you through the quarterbacks he had. Joe Montana, sorry, got that wrong. Hall of Famer Joe Montana and Hall of Famer Steve Young.
And don't forget, the West Coast offense, which as we know is a misnomer, was created out of desperation. Because the Cincinnati Bengals, for whom Walsh was the offensive assistant, had Greg Cook, who was a carved from stone, carved from granite, chiseled All-American boy with a big arm, who basically, after one bad tackle in his rookie year, never played again. So they had to bring in a gentleman called Virgil Carter, who didn't have an NFL standard arm, but was accurate, and he could dink and dunk. So out of panic, Bill Walsh devised an offense to make the most of the skills of the players he had, and spent the rest of his coaching career finding players to fit that system. It just so happens that Joe Montana went out of San Francisco and was successful somewhere else. Not obviously as much, but he was coming to the end. So I don't think you couldn't just say, well, he's just a system quarterback, because that's bollocks. But Adam Gase has done nothing without Peyton Manning. And I mean, the great season he had with Jay Cutler, the Bears went 5-11.
We're going to say it's great in inverted commas, right? It's not great as in they went 15-1 and scored 50 points a game.
No, it's not the Brian Billick season with the Falcon, the Vikings.
Speaking of offensive geniuses who fully understood offensive schemes, a head coach.
Don't draft Kyle Boller.
Yeah, but Neil, don't ever forget, from his knees he can throw it through the sticks.
We said, I don't know if you remember this, but this was obviously going back many, many years. If there was any justice in the world in around 2002, 2003, Tony Dungy would have been the coach of the Baltimore Ravens, and Billick would have been coach of the Colts.
Exactly, because it would have just made more sense. There are hot takes this week. We love doing them because they're funny, and you get to laugh at yourself sometimes if you've made bad picks. Although we didn't do that this week, or we get to laugh at teams. Or shout at them.
I like laughing at millionaires.
I like or billionaires, as the case may be. But let's get down to the business. I'd rather do other things than laugh at them. Let's get down to the fantasy side of this equation, Dutton, which is what we're paid for, or what I'm paid for. That I need to talk to you about that.
Good luck with that.
First of all, Neil's going to shout us through the best and worst of this week, starting with his fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
I don't know if anyone's noticed, but tight end is something of a cesspool.
Hadn't noticed, Neil, as I'm picking between Ed Dixon and Tyler Croft this week.
Nothing wrong with Tyler Croft. He's got a good matchup. He should get plenty of volume against the Jags. But one person has benefited greatly from an injury on either side of the game he's going to play. And that someone is Mr. Vernon Davis. Now, obviously, he benefits from the fact Jordan Reed is going to be injured, so it means he'll see more targets and more snaps. But he also benefits from the fact that Earl Thomas probably won't be playing for the Seahawks. The Seahawks have had I think it's the 10th most tight end targets against them, and that was with Thomas in the lineup. Vernon Davis, you look at his numbers when Jordan Reed has not played over the last 2 years, he has been one of the best tight ends in the league. And this season, he leads all tight ends with at least 20 targets, with 18.35 yards per reception. Washington wide receivers are trash. I'm terribly sorry. They are.
Breaking news, Neil. Good job you told me. I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Doxson delivering the always helpful one reception, 1 yard, 1 touchdown play. Great. Thanks, Josh. That's wonderful. And, obviously they're going to go up against, Richard Sherman and co. So I think the middle of the field, cover 3 defences do struggle against tight ends because, you can run a vertical route away from the centre fielder, which, to be honest, would have been Earl Thomas, but now it isn't. So we don't know. I think Vernon Davis could certainly have a nice game. And, this week you look on bye weeks, we've got Gronk, Kyle Rudolph. Some of the big hitters aren't available. So you've got to make do with what you can.
My rules on before we go on to Fancy Lose, my rules on picking teams and related to teams I support and picking players in fancy leagues.
You don't do it.
I don't, do I? We'll come back to that later. But first of all, Dutton loves Vernon Davis, but who does he hate?
Hate is such a strong word. I'm not sure I'd go that far.
You shout at me because I call it a loser all the time, so I'm trying to mix it up.
Yeah, but going from you're a loser to I hate you is it's a bit it's a bit of a jump.
It is.
Many women have made that jump towards me.
Away from you.
Exactly. Hate Matt Ryan's matchup this week. Matt Ryan has gone 6 games since he last passed for 300 yards. And he has thrown for more than 1 touchdown just twice all season. The Falcons are playing the Carolina Panthers. They've allowed 1 300-yard passer all season, and it took 48 pass attempts to get there. And in 4 of their 8 games, they have not allowed a single passing touchdown. So I know it's tough because we've got some quarterbacks, Brady's on his bye, Roethlisberger, if you were picking him's on his bye, Case Keenum. These people are all on the bye. But if you could avoid playing Matt Ryan this week, I certainly would.
If we look at on the same kind of idea, if you're not picking Matt Ryan, you're probably not picking Julio Jones. Last 3 seasons in NFL ranks for Julio Jones, courtesy of, I assume, that the NFL research notes and our friend Dan Hanses. Targets over 2015-16, he was 3rd, he's now 20th. Receptions, he was 2nd, he's now 20th. Receiving yards, he was 1st, and now he's 9th. Receiving touchdowns, which we always queried about him, he was tied 13th. He's now tied 87th. That kind of before they're playing the Carolina Panthers, that is done, so it makes perfect sense.
I mean, he does have form against the Carolina Panthers, if you remember last season. But
he does, but they had an offensive coordinator at that point, if I remember correctly, as well. Maybe
get Sark out of there.
That's just I won't. Yeah, let's just do that. So we're loving Vernon Davis. We're thinking that Matt Ryan isn't our favourite person this week. How's that?
That's better. That's better.
So in this hotshot, speedy, waxing lyrical, let's get on to Man and Neil's fantasy teams of the week.
Mains and Dots Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
So for those who aren't aware, me and Neil give you a weekly DFS DraftKings classic team. I think it's 50,000 you guys for 9 players, Neil, is that about right?
Yes, that's right.
So quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a defense and special teams, or as we will call it this week, the Philadelphia Eagles. But let's get this started with Neil's quarterback.
Quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, Carson Wentz, 6,100. I don't think the Eagles are going to be able to run the ball particularly well against the Broncos, and it would be folly to bet on an Eagles wide receiver, but Wentz has shown that he can still, he's not going to pepper anyone with targets, I don't think, but Wentz can do enough to make enough plays, and he's using his feet as well. I think he's already surpassed his rushing yards tally from last season, and he's the MVP. Deal with it.
Neil is one of my closest friends, if not my closest friend. I follow through Neil, John Barshard, and we both follow make sure our wives, the absolutely delectable Colleen Wolfe.
She won't be listening.
No, she won't be listening, so I can say what I want. I'm just going to say to all 3 of you, I love you all. It's the hope that kills you. Just breathe. That's all. I don't need the 2 o'clock in the morning phone calls when you're all crying because something bad's happened. That's all I'm saying. I understand the unbridled optimism. I do. I would have it as well. I want to put some caution out there. My quarterback,
no 7-1 teams ever won a Super Bowl.
Thanks. My quarterback is Drew Brees. He's 7,000 and he's playing at Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and much like me and Neil get them wrong every other year, we got them wrong this year because we said they were good, and guess what? They're not, and they're really bad on defense as well. 7,000 seemed like a steal, and yeah, I in theory, after watching the Broncos, I did want to kind of go heavy on Eagles players, but struggled to, only got one in. Because the Broncos, it sounds really ridiculous, if it wasn't for the turnovers, they wouldn't have got absolutely battered by Kansas City, but they basically played into a standstill apart from all of them.
I will point out that Drew Brees is pissing me off over the last few weeks. It's, annoyingly, as we say, look, the Saints are running the ball and playing good defense. It'll prolong Drew Brees' career. That's a lovely story, and I do stand by it. But when it's coming down to my fantasy team, it pisses me off. 20 of 28 for 299 and no touchdowns. No, Drew. No. I couldn't give a flying toss about your 6,000 career completions. Throw touchdowns, please. Just
Amen.
One would have helped.
Amen, Neil. Who's your running back one?
Running back one is Derrick Henry, $5,000. The Titans, are playing the Baltimore Ravens, and the Ravens have been trash against the run for most of the season. They did bottle up former Dolphins running back London Ajayi last week, but it's worth noting that on the first play from scrimmage, Ajayi did run for 21 yards. Without Brandon Williams, they were absolutely awful. I'm not sure how fit DeMarco Murray is, but I think Henry is starting to make his push for Murray's job, basically.
Absolutely, Neil. Absolutely. My running back one is it's not really controversial because I think it makes sense if anyone ever dealt in a transfer trade concept. when someone's been traded, I always think get them in early, get those points, because the team will either feed them loads or they'll score a touchdown. So London-born Philadelphia Eagle Jay Ajayi at 5,700. He is playing the Broncos, so I do understand the fact that this could blow up my face. However, I expect him to do some kind of, Neil, if you remember correctly, that Clinton Portis game, the first game he had for the Washington Redskins,
64 yards,
64 yards, and off he went to the house. I expect Jay Ajayi to get in the end zone.
Welcome to Washington, Clinton Portis, I believe the commentary
Joe
was.
Buck. Indeed, Neil. Okay, running back 2.
As painful as it is to have any part of a Stantonised offence, I've got Adrian Peterson, 5,600. The 49ers have given up the most fancy points to running backs, and you would like to think Bruce Arians would be sensible and take the ball out of Drew Stanton's hands as many times as possible, so Peterson could get a good, healthy workload here. Obviously, I'm not going to get helped in PPR by these two running backs, but this week it was a choice I had to make.
My running back 2 is from the same game. It's Carlos Hyde, and he's playing the Arizona Cardinals. Just so you know, 49ers win this week.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. The Cardinals are flipping awful, and the only thing that was stopping the Cardinals from being flipping awful, like the worst dumpster fire, was the fact that they had somewhat competent QB. They haven't got that anymore.
Speaking of competent QBs, have you seen CJ Beathard play?
I have, yeah. That's not so good. Hopefully they'll feed Carlos Hyde. He's 5,200.
Yeah, rhymes with hogflit.
Yeah, okay. It's one for the kids. Neil, who is your wide receiver 1?
9,200, DeAndre Hopkins.
See, right. I just want to make it abundantly clear to people, if you haven't done your DraftKings thing, DeAndre Hopkins is 9,800, and the next person down is 7,800. That is unbelievable. There is I couldn't do it. There's a $2,000 difference between DeAndre Hopkins and everybody else. Do you think people like Larry Fitzgerald? I was thinking about this when I was driving home. People like Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden and other quarterbacks who live their lives with absolute trash quarterbacks. I'm just ringing DeAndre Hopkins and saying, "I'm so happy for you, man." Like Andre Johnson's ringing him up and I know I didn't get this opportunity in Houston, but I'm happy for you, man, because you've actually got a quarterback who can throw it.
No. The sad thing is, for as good as Larry Fitzgerald has been in his NFL career, the majority of it has been with crap quarterbacks. That just makes him even more impressive for my money. DeAndre Hopkins, I'll tell you this, I tried to go for the Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins stack, but I looked at the team I could have had if I wanted the pair of them, and I thought, I can't do this. They aren't going to be that good, so I'm going to have to get rid of one of them. But I wanted Hopkins because the Indianapolis secondary be poo.
It'd be poo. I mean, it makes perfect sense, and I think you should try and get him in. It's just, I started thinking...
I've never seen that before. I've never seen that time disparity.
I can't afford that. I can't afford it, because I've got other players. It's like, if I pick DeAndre Hopkins, I've got to pick about 3 players for 3,000. You may not even get on the field.
Yeah. I got some beauties coming up now.
My first one is my stack on the Drew Brees, and that's Michael Thomas. He's 7,200. He's playing the Bucks. I don't know if you've heard. I think I said the Bucks thing.
Thomas has been consistent this season, but again, he's not had that Amari Cooper game.
He hasn't, no. And I'm hoping, last week... I'm not. I haven't mentioned it. You haven't mentioned it, Neil. I haven't mentioned it. So let's mention it. I picked Juju Smith-Schuster last week.
Yes,
absolutely nail that.
He asked everyone to as well.
He did, yeah. I think it's coming for Breeze and Thomas. I think now is it this week? I'm hoping so. Might not be though, but it's coming. I think it's coming. They're too talented for it not to happen for me.
But the problem is, they've not lost the last 6 without giving Thomas 15 targets a game. He's getting by. The team's winning, so there's no reason to stop it.
Oh yeah,
but this is assuming rational coaching.
I was going to say, yeah, congratulations, thanks for that. Sean Payton's the head coach. Loves a throw. It's like, all Andy Reid needs to do is keep on giving it to Kareem Hunt. Yeah, good luck with that. I've been watching Andy Reid for 15 years. That's never going to happen in this lifetime or next. Wide receiver 2, Neil.
Cooper Kupp, 4,500.
Oh, he's already started. I like Cooper Kupp. May have tried to pick him up in my standard league because I've literally gone Washington on that. Like I've hit the skids. 3 losses on the bounce.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing the Giants, who the defense hasn't been as good this year as thought, and the second cornerback in 3 weeks has been suspended by the team.
Do we know what's happened to Jack Rabbit? Do we know what he's done?
Apparently, he didn't return to the facility in a timely manner after the bye week.
I have absolutely no idea.
I think,
what that means.
But what it is the root cause of the problem is Ben McAdoo's a clown. He has no control over his team or his players, and should not have a job as a head coach ever again at any level.
Well, he
Plus,
won't he looks
after this weird. One. He looks like a weirdo.
He won't have one after this one. No. My wide receiver 2 is C. Neil's comments about DeAndre Hopkins and plug in Will Fuller the 5th. That is a strong family to be consistent on the Will Fuller. Love their work. He's 7,000, and I think we joke when we say all this guy ever does is catch touchdowns. But I actually think that's what it is.
There was a player for the Eagles in the mid-2000s. He was a tight end / long snapper. His name was Mike Bartram. He had 11 career receptions, 7 of them for touchdowns. That's Will Fuller's season.
It's crazy, and I'm hoping for more. And he's playing the Colts, and the Colts are going to put their good crap cornerback on DeAndre Hopkins. So that means their really crap cornerback will be on Will Fuller, and he won't be able to keep up with him.
No.
Wide receiver 3, Neil.
I've made this point a couple of weeks ago that the Eagles give up the majority of their yards through the air after the catch. Now, one of the best over the last 5 to 6 years wide receivers in the game for stacking up and racking up the yak is Demaryius Thomas. I realise that I'm putting my faith in someone who is going to be quarterbacked by Brock Osweiler. But again, I'm assuming logical coaching that Mike McCoy will say, look, get out of his hands, go back to the bubbles, go back to the tunnel screens, just let his blockers do some work for him. Not going to be taking deep shots to him. And as we point out, DraftKings is PPR. So 6,000, the Eagles cornerbacks, Jalen Mills, I'll give him his due. It looks terrible because how often he's being targeted, but he's not getting beat. He's giving up receptions because he's playing 10 yards off. But in like 3rd and short, he's not getting beat, he's not getting burned. And that was a wonderful pick 6 return.
Agreed.
Despite what Fletcher did or didn't do to Joe Staley.
Well, there's allegedly there's a did and didn't do, but I'm pretty sure that Joe Staley's face suggested something did happen, as his orbital bone is now in more pieces than it was when he started. Question for you, Neil. Do you know which team is the worst against wide receivers in terms of fantasy points this year?
I believe it is the Kansas City Chiefs.
That is correct, and that's why I picked Des Bryant. He's 6,400. There's going to be, it is 9:30 on the 1st of November. As we speak, Ezekiel Elliott isn't playing NFL football for the next 6 weeks. Therefore, I would expect less running over the next 6 weeks. Not no running, absolutely not. And there's a suggestion that maybe you pick up Alf Morris in a league if you wish. I wouldn't be, but that's just me. I've gone for Des because I think they're going to get a lot of throws this week, and he was 6,400. Who's your tight end, Neil?
Zach Ertz. As you know, there's me stack.
As you pick him every week, yeah.
The Broncos historically do not do well against tight ends because, again, it's a funnel defense. Their cornerbacks are so good. They push everything into the middle. Zach Ertz has been an absolute revelation this season. And and he's on something of a glut of touchdowns. So Ertz for 6,800, I'll have that.
I'd pick Vernon Davis.
I
don't do that.
No. I'd suddenly have a desire to go and edit the article I've just submitted.
Drop him from every league you've thought about and never mention this conversation again. But as you mentioned,
kill it with fire.
As you mentioned, the only way that Washington can move the ball is a bubble screen to Chris Thompson, or to a tight end. That tight end is Vernon Davis. You may look and ask, rightfully so, why would you do that against the Seattle Seahawks? However, it is understood as we speak that Earl Thomas might not play. Therefore, that's good news. So there we go. So I'll have more of that, please. Flex, Neil.
Following along similar theories to yours with Des Bryant, I've gone for Cole Beasley, 4,000. Beasley obviously is going to maybe soak up a lot more targets than Bryant, but low risk, high percentage, as sort of like an extension of the running game, as it were. Just basically short handoffs, long passes, as it were. He's 4,000, as I say, and he has shown chemistry with Dak Prescott over the last 2 years.
I've got no money. I'll pick Kenny and Drake.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. Why would you do this?
I don't know.
A backup running back
level
talent. A backup running back level talent on a team that can't run block.
I know.
What a fabulous use of resources you have committed to.
I know. I'm going to explain myself.
Did you not go far enough down and find a bag of balls for £2.50?
I wanted to pick Cole Beasley, but I'd already picked Des Bryant. I picked him, and I've just picked him, so I don't need to explain myself. I picked him, and that's how it's going. And he's playing Oakland, and Oakland is shit. That's there you go, done it now.
And if you get a chance to play Kenny and Drake in an NFL game, you just have to take it. Well,
I won 2 games last week comfortably, given my brilliance of picking Juju Smith-Schuster in the flex position. So you can't be good in the flex position 2 weeks on the run. So
you're letting basically your winnings from 2 weeks riding on red 42 that is Kenny and Drake.
No, I'm not. That's not what I'm
Jesus.
doing. What I'm doing is he needs to get me 8 points.
Good luck with that.
Okay. We'll tweet that out when it happens.
Yeah.
Who's your defence, Neil?
Panthers, 2,700.
No. Oh, 2,000. You ran out of money then.
Yeah.
Because if it isn't the Philadelphia Eagles, you're doing this wrong.
Yeah, I ran out of money. By the way, that picture that I sent before of the smiling face of Fletcher Cox is my new favourite picture. I will use that whenever I can. Yeah,
I'm sure. Tweet it out, Neil. Let everyone see it. I'll retweet it as well. Let's quickly go through this. Who's your quarterback?
Carson Wentz.
I've got Drew Brees. Running back?
Derrick Henry.
Philadelphia Eagle, J.J. Running back 2.
Adrian Peterson.
I've got Carlos Hyde, same game. Wide receiver 1.
DeAndre Hopkins.
I've got Michael Thomas, wide receiver 2.
Cooper Kupp.
I've got Will Fuller, the 5th. Wide receiver 3.
Demaryius Thomas.
I've got Des Bryant, tight end.
Zach Ertz.
I've got Vernon Davis, the flex.
Cole Beasley.
Kenyon Drake. Defense and special teams.
The Carolina Panthers.
I've got the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't big yourself up before we go.
I will have. I had an article published for RotoViz regarding the impact of Jay Ajayi. So you can find that. My tight end streamers will be out either late today or tomorrow. I should have an article coming out on Number Fire regarding the secrets of the success of the Minnesota Vikings offense. Spoiler alert, Kai Forbath gets mentioned. I will be on with Nakumas and Co. on Sunday and next Tuesday, and on the NFL show with Nat last night, Mike Carlson called me Dutch. So I will probably be retiring soon, which is a shame because we've only missed it by a week, but this here podcast is 5 years old.
Go us, Neil. Go us. We rule. I don't think any more than to say that these top guys are out as Neil gets called Dutch by Mr. Mike Carlson.